All right, thank you so much. And this afternoon we have a wonderful treat. And welcome to the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center by way of Shimak Olawa Gifts and also Shimak Olawa Native Arts. And I think this is a special place at a special time today that it so happens that we're in the pottery room as we demonstrated all of our 19 Pueblos are represented. And as a cultural center, we're also indeed owned and operated by our 19 Pueblos, and we're very, very happy about it. Today particularly, we're flabbergasted, if that's the word. We're very elated as well that we have one of the dominant forces in Pueblo potting, and particularly with Jemez Pueblo potters. And as we continue our journey of Native art, we want to represent all of our 19 Pueblos and also to share their experiences as they develop their beautiful craft work, handiwork, handcrafted, things of that nature. So today we also have two wonderful duos that have been doing pottery for many, many years. And it's a mother and daughter team. And I'm just going to let them introduce themselves and say, words. And you go on.
Okay. My name is Vangie Tafoya. I'm from Jemez and Ildefonso. And I do pottery.
And then my name is Brenda Tafoya. I'm the daughter of Vangie Tafoya. I've been doing pottery for maybe over 30 years. She's my teacher.
So I'm going to ask questions about your creativity, things of that nature. I'm not going to ask you what you ate this morning or what you have drank. But anyway, it's a simple question. Hopefully you can actually answer it at your best of your ability, just coming from the heart. So my first question for you, Vangie, the mother, tell us about your family history, your grandmother, your auntie, of that nature, of how you became a potter. Were there potters before? Were there basket makers? Things of that nature. So how that came to be, Vangie?
My grandmother was from San Ildefonso, and then she started making pottery when I was still young. Taught from her making all that pottery that she used to make. And then my grandfather is half San Ildefonso and half Jemez. And when my grandpa brought my grandma to Jemez, she started making pottery, but she was always making black pottery. And then she would go take us out to get manure to fire her pottery. I started with the black, but I didn't like it, so then I started with my red pots, carving, etching. That's how I learned from.
So was this under the guidance of your mother, your grandmother? How did that came to be?
From San Ildefonso, I guess, because they're people make pottery, black pottery. And then she started in Jemez, and after we started doing that, a lot of people were doing the red pottery in Jemez.
Sure, whatever is popular at that time, yes. And of course, they don't realize that you have mentioned also manure, that we use different types of manure. It has to be thoroughly dried. And using cow manure, horse, and sheep. And that's also an art form, because we have to use specific manure to create different colors. So my next question will be, as when your skill is developed, when was the indication that this type of work, your sgraffito etch, will be your signature piece? Was this something that came to be overnight, or did it take several years?
It took me several years, I guess, 2 years. I did it in a small pot first. And they came out really nice. I put them design, I used freehand on all my designs. And it came out so nice and started making them. The person I sold one that really went for it because people really liked my work.
It's something to cherish because, sometimes, we're very hesitant to do different things, but, in traditional forms, sgraffito is something that's much newer in terms of how we develop our work. And certainly with this, became your signature.
Yeah.
You can identify your work just by looking at particular pieces. Because, from the Pueblo of Jemez, do you prefer Jemez or Jemez? Jemez. Okay, Jemez. That there's a lot of potters that are, they're relatively known for their own right, but you can always tell yours.
Yeah. And my trademark is a feather.
A feather.
Yeah. I'm a eagle pen.
Wow. All right.
So I put my feathers on the bottom of my cup.
So you already mentioned earlier that, are you just as good doing free form on your pieces with, like when you draw it out with a pencil, do you do that?
I don't use pencil.
It's just
That's what
the talent that you
Yeah.
have, and that
Every
is
comes
beautiful.
to my mind, whatever. The piece that I do, like hummingbirds, one time I was just sitting there making pottery. I have a flower garden. And I saw the hummingbirds.
Oh,
Just watching them. That's what really got me. So I started making butterflies and hummingbirds.
certainly is beautiful. I mean, just by looking at your piece. But is there other medium that you have tried before when you were younger?
I used to do a little bit of paper stuff. I used to use paint.
Oh yes, in the olden days.
Yeah, the older days, I started with that paper. So I just started making outside.
Yeah, because probably everybody's doing it, but I think for you instigated where you can do something very different. So it certainly is beautiful. But just tell us a little bit about your creation process. Do you still do the old horizontal coil method?
Yeah.
Grinding
Big one,
the.
I do the coil, I put my basket, start doing the coil up, and then bring it up to a shape. Different shape. On that, big holes, and then I put the melon inside.
The final touch of it. And
Yeah.
certainly this is more of what they refer to as a low squatted pottery. But, and then again, as we have mentioned also, and it's completely free form.
Yeah,
It's just,
all free.
that is really amazing. It's something that, a lot of our non-potters don't understand how the creativity and the connection with your mind, your hands, your fingers, your emotions goes into pottery of that nature. And then as you take your clay, do you actually do an offering to the mother clay as well?
Yeah. Cornmeal, as spirit would always go or pot the way you want it. Come up nice and pretty, people like it.
Yes, it certainly is by a historical sense, this is also a spiritual role, which you can't even put value on it, but then again, we have to look be beyond this beautiful creativity. So I'll give you a little break, Abby, and I'm going to pick on Brenda. Brenda, and of course, you're the daughter, obviously, and you also have a sister that does pottery. But my first question for you will be that, when did you know that you wanted to do pottery? Was there an age that you thought, oh, I'm going to be like mom, I want to be like grandmother, I want to be like auntie? Was there a time frame that you know of that you wanted to be a potter?
Well, right after high school, she kept telling me to make pottery, but I wasn't really into it because they weren't coming out as good as hers. So I took a break, went to school, and then came back started working on it, and then I just stuck with it. You know, when I shape them, they come out crooked, but she tells me just keep at it. Once they dry, then sand them down, they'll get their shape.
Yes.
So
So, Mama didn't want you to be a doctor or a lawyer of sorts, things of that nature, which is beautiful though. I mean, we got to realize that a lot of this creativity has actually been brought from many generation on down, and hopefully that it never ceased to fade out. But then that's always good to know. And then, was it actually, as you mentioned, Mom, that studying under your mom? How long was it? I mean, is it a lifetime thing? Are you still learning from your mother?
yeah, there's always a lot of different things to learn. I mean, since the pottery's all different now, they do all sorts of stuff on their pots. So there's always something to learn, and the paints and stuff.
Yeah. So what type of advice did she give you? Like, okay, you're not doing this right, but let's do this. Was there an
She
advice?
just kept pushing me to keep making them. Once I kept at it, they were getting better.
Yeah. And of course, I'm sure that if the phone is ringing, oh gosh, you have to put the phone off the hook and have to create your beautiful pieces. So
Yeah.
also, and then were there other potters also that influenced you to become an artist? Because in Pueblo world, you find a lot of potters, and particularly with Jemez Pueblo. Oh my gosh, every household is a potter.
Yeah.
And so by that, with all that treasures of potters, was there other that really influenced you, or is just the creativity that you based through your mother?
I really didn't know anything right after high school on pottery until I saw my mom making her own. So I just thought I'd follow her footsteps on making them.
And a good footstep indeed, because you probably in many books, different books, and you're recognized for your work, and certainly from being in pottery business with Shimakolowa Gifts, we definitely have a pleasure. And it so happens we discovered that your piece is also part of the permanent collection, which we're very, very proud of. And with our pottery room, we wanted to display all of our 19 Pueblos, which is certainly hard to do. Here at Shimakolowa Gifts, my job, or just collectively with my co-worker, we try to bring in all potters from different Pueblos, all of 19 Pueblos. And that's one of the hardest thing to do. So by that, as we didn't bring some of your work, Brenda, but you sort of do similar work. But is there a separation where if you tell me, oh, this is my mom's work and this is my work, and this is a way of telling the difference, is there a way you can tell me that this is your work from your mom's? I know it's difficult to do.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult. She makes more of the bigger ones, the bigger pieces. I can't make bigger pieces. I've tried, but they always come out crooked or something. But I think that's the only way you can tell. Plus, I put owls. She hardly ever puts owls.
Oh, is it because of taboo, or you just don't do owls because?
Well, I do owls. I do a lot of stuff. I do the deer. I did one time. This guy came Albuquerque asking me if I wanted to make a logo.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I did.
Yeah, the wolf logo. Yes. So certainly it reminds me of another potter from Santa Clara, the Chevaliers, and their mom does big size. The daughter will do small size. And I thought that's a well-respected image to pay tribute to your mom, so you don't go over the size of your mother. So I think that's very unique, and I think that's just another way of respecting not our elders, but because sometimes we say, oh, I can do bigger, and by bigger I get a bigger paycheck. But in this case, no. It's sometimes some people, they want a pottery and they want the smaller size, assuming it's very inexpensive. But in the hands of an experienced potter like you, you put more work into it, so it's much harder as opposed to a novice potter that will put a small pieces, and I'm sure they will not create the pieces that you would on a smaller piece. So, one more question. And have you ever wanted to work other medium besides pottery? Have you considered going to school, that type of thing? Or as parents, we want our kids to go to school to educate themselves, or to do other medium, because like in Pueblo life, basketry also was a huge thing, and we don't see basketry anymore.
No, especially hickories people, or those people.
Mescalero, hickory?
Yeah, hickory. They used to make beautiful basket. Now you can see them, because I got a big basket that they made.
Yeah.
I trade that somewhere.
Yeah, and of course, when you go to a feast, and you'll see a lot of like rugs, basketry, pottery, things of that nature. So at that time, and I'm sure it's still happening now, there was a lot of trading and bartering. Where you trade pottery for rugs or whatever the nature will be then. And I think that's a unique way of just sharing cultural handiwork, if that's the word, where it has to be enhanced, and by enhanced, in your creativity, it certainly is beautiful. And by that, we were certainly impressed of how half of it is actually in a different color with more of a melon structure, and then the front side is more of a sgraffito, which is a fancier word for just etching. And it's amazing just to think for both of you that this is free form, and by that tells us you're well experienced. So definitely we very cherish for your presence. Now we're gonna change it up a little bit, but if you have a question, you can add to the questions that I've asked.
I have no question.
Oh, okay, all right. And then again, with a lot of people here, it's hard to hear. So both of you, this is a question for both. So as you progressed to this level of beauty, have you ever found the influencing, like, okay, you should try this, Mom, or you should try this design, or try this method? Was there ever a period of that, or was it challenging? Like, oh, you shouldn't do this because you mentioned that one will do Alan's, one wouldn't. Is that challenging, or is that to help each other?
I think we help each other on finding different colors for our pottery, like the rocks. We're always looking for different colors, and we encourage each other to try it out.
So, and you mentioned rocks. Now, not in retail form, because a lot of potters will not share their secrets, which is okay. What type of rocks is it? Is it because like a lot of potters would not share their secrets, and I understand that. I really do. Like we tell our customers that this is made out of orchard, mineral paint, vegetal paint, and that's where we stop. Do you have any insight on that, and what type of stone you use?
The stone that my grandmother was using, I was asking her, where'd you got that? She said, the river. So before she passed, she gave me that rock. And then somebody stole that. It was a big, I missed that rock so much. Then I went looking for it in the rivers. I'm walking around, so I found a couple. I want to keep my really nice. So I got that.
Yeah.
That I use.
And I think, we were just talking downstairs in our gift shop that I mentioned to a customer that your polishing stones, is that even though if you offer $1 million on this beautiful polishing stone, it's priceless. You have the right feel for the stone, and that's part of you. So it's hard to depart from that, and it's hard to also to retrace what you have lost. So it's like
It really hurt me when I lost that because I prized that, and my grandma gave me that. Something just
yeah.
The stones that we used, we have the grip on how we hold it to polish our pottery. And it's hard to find another one that's exactly like it to how,
Yes.
it's, I don't know how you say it, it just feels right.
Yeah, and you mentioned to my co-worker downstairs that how do you know it's the right pressure, and things of that nature. So we don't know if you scratch a surface, you have to redo the whole thing.
Yeah.
So can you explain or elaborate on that? When you stone polishing, because a lot of them don't understand. Can you elaborate on that? Both Vangie and Brenda.
It's really hard, like on the temperature, like I was telling the ladies, it's hard during the summer to polish because of the heat. So we get up early, 5, 6 o'clock, polish when it's still cool outside. Polish, but once you can't even have long nails. Once you scratch the red part, you have to sand everything again.
Yes. And that's just another side of that natural ability to stone polish the wear. And what we're saying is that that stone polish have that right pressure, and if you don't have the right pressure, you can scratch a piece. And when you scratch a piece, you cannot just go over it and then fire it. We'll have a two-tone. You can tell where it was scratched. So it's very important that a lot of our consumers don't understand that. They think it's just something that have been purchased perhaps at a store and done the electric kiln. They don't understand the natural process from accumulating the clay, which is moist, it has to be thoroughly dried and wind dried, it has to be grind. They don't understand the process of the work.
Like I said, also the temperature.
And the temperature,
has
exactly.
a lot to do with the polishing.
Yes. And the polishing stone is actually very, very important. That's pretty much the final touch into the firing. Is that right? When you establish your piece, you put your coat, your slip, you stone polish, and what's after that?
The design.
The design. Okay.
The design, then the scraping, and then the poking or etching.
Yeah. On your etching, what type of tools do you use? Sometimes we hear about dental tools, things of that nature. I'm not sure where they get dental tools, but it has to be precise. And one will do when it's moist, and one will do when it's thoroughly dried. How do you approach yours? Dry.
We do it, when the pottery is dry, we use exacto knives, the different shapes. Because we have the round parts, we use the round shape of the blade, so we can do the round part and all different kinds, different shapes that the blades come in.
So when you were learning from Mom, all your pieces were asymmetrical, and it took quite a while to.
Yeah.
You think that with all that experiences, I see today a lot of Pueblo pottery, or even from the buyers, say, it's leaning a little bit. So that's a good indication that it's traditionally done.
Yeah, it's handmade.
It is hand done.
Not perfect.
And it's not perfect. Now we try to tell our consumers that they're looking for that perfect piece. So actually, if there's a little flaw, that's a good indicator that it's naturally done. So my next question will be, And of course, I think that's in every culture and in every nations and tribes. Do you think there's an interest in our native youth of carrying the traditional pottery traditions? And that could be like basketry, any other medium as well.
But to me, I think nowadays we try to teach our youth. We'll have classes at our Pueblo to do pottery, sewing, embroidery. But for have them do it on their own, it's going away.
So they need guidance.
Yeah.
And I think particularly with you, Vangie, I mean you're the hierarchy. Do you do teaching with the youth?
I used to do teaching and then sewing too. And then now the Head Start, my daughter works at the Head Start. So she does more. They do a lot of stuff at the Head Start, trying to make pottery and little things. They're trying to learn things like that now.
And I think
Even the paper bread.
yes.
Yeah, they're doing that too.
I think the most easiest thing to do in terms of with little children is that they'll do bears and turtles, and I think that's a good way
Animal figurine.
and then that's the easiest. But your ancestors actually have done a lot of figurines,
Yeah.
and it's amazing that, and you cannot even put a timeline on back in the earlier time that they did a lot of figurines, and then how we establish to it is a storyteller, and then a lot of the pottery from what we see, the beautiful piece, were actually functional. Have you ever done a functional piece for ceremonies?
Uh-uh.
No.
Because they use water for ceremony. You can't use water in that.
Okay. So what we're saying is they're not waterproof.
They're not waterproof.
Okay. So how can you waterproof a pot? Do you know?
Yeah, my dad's sister used to make pottery with they grind a stone. They grind the stone and then they mix it with the clay and they fire it in the mirror and then that makes it waterproof.
So it's probably at a higher temperature,
Yes,
higher temperature burning as well.
Much harder work.
And it's much harder. And I think in having to use micaceous, it can be used as a functional piece, so it's utilitarian. A lot of the earlier pieces that I know was actually functional to something that's even beautiful. So this is just simply part of the collection that collectors will collect. And so my next question will be that, and it is a business. It's a business. And besides pottery crafting through many changes, have it ever affect you? Let's say like there's a lot of competition. We compete with eBay. We compete with fake stuff. We compete with something that they say it's native art. Have that impacted on you? Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, I can buy this piece somewhere else, far less than what you're asking for." And like even for us, like our pieces, when you go on such entity as eBay, a lot of the pieces, I'm not sure where they're getting from, but a lot of pieces are at to their eyes, a very favorable piece. Did that ever affect you, even though at the stature that you're at? Both Vangie and Brenda?
Yeah, it has. Back, I'll say back in the late 80s, 90s, was a real good time for, people buying pottery. But as we came, coming to the 2000s, there's a lot of like the eBays, you said, and people imitating our work from Mexico maybe, and even mold. doing it as mold.
Reshape and pre-mold.
Yeah, it got hard for us to sell.
Yeah. And I think now that the end result also is that a lot of our younger potters are actually resulting to non-traditional clay like store-bought clay, and resulting to the electrochem which is a lot more simpler done. But I think with what you're doing, there's a lot more story to it, of your creating process, of, you know, even on your, I think it's on Vangie, on your, is it a Vangie on the front side of your piece? I forget what it is, but
The serpent?
is it a
The
serpent?
water
Yeah.
serpent, the water
And
serpent.
see, they don't realize that a serpent is actually a barrier for rain or for water, which the Pueblo people, you know, they really regulate their lives around water. And why do we do that? Well, it's for planting reasons, and, you know, we offer to the gods that, you know, we offer them rain, not rain, but dances, prayers, and songs. In return, we'll get rain. And it's actually been working because it's been raining. And I always make fun of, you know, it's been raining hard. I said, my Pueblo friends, you guys can stop raining. It's it's muddy here. So it certainly is a good thing. Also, as we move on, the time moves on, and we start to see fewer collectors of native art. All the connoisseur, and they're all gone. They either have passed on, they didn't share the pieces with their children, so there's no influences of how it came to be, or having to be appreciative of a beautiful piece. Has it also impacted on you? I'm sure you know all the old potters, old collectors that used to come see you.
Yeah.
They're no longer here.
Nobody, they even come to the house to look for pottery now, but now nobody's stopping by. We take them out, sell them,
I wonder why is that? You know, now the access is different, our infrastructure, the roads are all paved, and gasoline prices are at favorable prices. But I think, you know, with all the collectors, we're simply at a state where I think we need to re-educate our collectors, non-buyers, and even for here at the Shimakolua Gifts, with my co-worker, that we're trying our best of our ability to educate and to teach our travelers of how important this piece is and the reason why of that price. And we have to start from square one, how we develop the clay and how we did the horizontal coil method and such. And I think it certainly have impacted of not only the Pueblos, but certainly with even like silver prices. It's always it fluctuate quite a bit, and turquoise, and, you know, and it has certainly impacted on us. But I think with the cultural center, with the entity that it is, we stood our grounds. And I think with having the 19 Pueblos, that's also a reassuring that it will stay here for hopefully eons. And so, after establishing your method, both Brenda and Vangie, I even asked you earlier that give her a piece of clay, blindfold her, and she can shape this piece, because they have so much experience. So if I was a potter, and what advice would you give me? Give it up? Try your best? Keep doing it? So sometimes, you know, we give advices. Oh, okay, this is how we can actually add the temper. The temper is adding to your clay of how much to use. Or do we use cow, sheep, or horse manure because they have different temperature burning? All this you have to indulge on. And what would your advice would be?
keep doing it. The whole side.
it's what advice would you give me if I was starting to pot?
Oh, you have to start from the scratch. Like, mix the clay to see how it feels. Mix it, do the shape. If it comes out crooked, keep doing it. It'll come out right. But check on it. Look at it, and one side's going to be off, and then keep doing it.
Yeah.
And if you want to do the car, just keep doing it. Just bring it up to a shape.
Yeah.
Come.
And I think you develop your own method as well, and then certainly with just repeating your method, I think you develop your own signature as well. So hopefully that with the stage that we're at, we hopefully to influence a lot of the upcoming potters to do their own method. Hopefully they will retain what your ancestors have brought. With the clay, they don't realize that some clays has to be mixed with temper. Some clay will have less temper because it's thinner, and things of that nature. And I think it's beautiful that we can able to do this and to talk about this. And what's your impression of our new gift shop, by the way?
It's nice. It's really nice. I mean, back in the 80s, it was, the way I remember it was where the round part was outside.
The semicircle, yes.
Yeah, but it's real different now.
It's so beautiful. It's nice.
So now, being in the art pottery, you certainly, I'm sure you're proud of your piece now that you're part of the permanent collection. Certainly with the beautiful ambience of the Sandias, and you look at the beautiful the outings of Albuquerque, and I think with the location that we have here at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center, which has been in existence since the 70s, and I think our role have never changed of looking into Native art. There's a lot of changes, obviously, through time, and certainly, but with pottery, there's little changes. We still do the same process. We fire it in the same manner, even though we did this sgraffito, we did etch with different tools. And I think at the moment, you get recognized. And have you ever traveled elsewhere? Like outside of the States or internationally? Have you ever traveled?
Yeah, we did Arizona Art Museum. We used to go over there, and then Kansas, Tucson. We did all the shows. Saturday Market.
Yeah. And definitely you won prizes and ribbons and.
Yeah, ribbons, and then the best of shows in State Fair.
Oh wow.
That was a big crowd. About 12 inches high. We were in California too, so we travel a lot now.
Yeah, we used to do a lot of art shows in Tucson, Arizona, University of Arizona. U of A? No. Art show in February. We used to do that.
Tucson.
Tucson.
Yeah.
And certainly, I'm sure you find a lot of writers, and I'm sure you've been written up in books and newspapers.
Southwest book. We were in Southwest book.
Mm-hmm. So certainly, do you collect those and put it as a collection, where you have like an album? Do you have an album of all your and your ribbons? Do you collect your ribbons as well?
Yes, we do. She has more. It's Brenda Tafoya.
And you have your collection as well.
Yes. I also was, I had a pot that came out on the journal, Albuquerque Journal, for the 8th Santa Fe, 8th Northern Art Show. There's a picture of my pottery on the journal.
Very nice.
3 or 4 second, a third place. A third place is what I won with the very first time I entered a pot. I started at third place. And probably altogether I may even have, a little less than 20.
So do you remember the age that you're at when you started that?
Probably about 20,
Oh,
early
my.
20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have traveled it as well,
She
right?
started after me, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
traveled. I've been to New Jersey, Colorado, Arizona, California, these other places.
Fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful. And hopefully it doesn't stop for you and to continue this success.
Try to get our grandkids too to do our party so they can keep it up.
So being Hamish, I almost always say Hamish. That's what, Mr. Sando, our own historian. Oh my gosh, he used to drill me to say it correctly. Hamish. It's not Hamish, it's Hamish. Me Hamish, a wonderful, wonderful man. I learned a lot from him. And he knew that I was Navajo. And he used to call me Navajo boy. Or then later I graduated to Austin, which is a man. But anyway, from it being Hamish and San Ildefonso, do you go back and forth for their ceremonies?
Every day, every time.
Oh yeah.
There's something going on. They call us and we go up there and we dance over there too.
Wow. So you think that with the influence of San Ildefonso, have you done the blackware on your sgraffito? Have you ever done that?
No, I just fired it. I fired my clocks, black clocks. But I didn't put no design.
Wow. That's beautiful. And certainly, I'm actually very, very elated to do this. We're showcasing of what we do here at the Cultural Center, particularly with Indian Pueblo Cultural Center Marketing and Shimakoto Gifts. And we're more into websites, things of that nature, and cyberspacing. And we have a website, and this is certainly be part of our interviews that we have done in the past and continue to do, and to showcase not only you, Vangie and Brenda, about the beautiful creativity that you do, and also to educate. This is our way of educating our listeners, and they see us believing that we do deal directly with our Pueblos or even our artists. And also to authenticate that particular piece, we also have an authenticity backing up our way of saying that this is a authentic piece and you are an authentic person. So hopefully that it will re-energize the buyer to purchase and looking beyond the price. And I think this is a good way of doing it. So is there any final words you want to add to that, Brenda?
I just want to say that to the new artists youth that are trying to do pottery or any other work, just keep it up and do the best you can. And one of these days they might be famous. Just keep at it.
That's good advice.
Yep.
And you, Vangie, what do you think? I mean, you're the hierarchy, and definitely they probably look up to you. And they'll say, someday I want to be like her. Being successful, you've traveled definitely, and there's some write-ups on you, and it certainly is a sort of like a good ambassador. We've become a good ambassador, and definitely a good role model. And I think you definitely fit that.
I always tell them to just keep on doing it. You'll get better someday. Maybe you'll win a ribbon. I always tell them. Hopefully they listen to me. My grandkids, one of my grandkids is trying to do it, but I don't know if it's gonna stay on it. But try started pushing out. Because I want them to be like, have my partner like these. Never know what's gonna happen. I might not be here, but grandkids will be making pottery just like my work.
Yes. Thank you so much. And of course, advice well taken. And of course, we're going to say goodbye momentarily. Thank you so much for tuning in to our segment. And of course, through Shimok Oliva Gifts and Shimok Oliva Native Arts, we just have interviewed Brenda and Vangie Tafoya from Jemez, Pueblo. And definitely look on our website to seek their pottery and other potters on our website. So thank you so much. And the audience, there's so many of you. Thank you so much as well for showing up. And how do you say thank you and goodbye and finish?
Take a look.
Thank you.